Things in the Real Housewives universe have taken shocking turns before, but nothing, and truly nothing, prepared anyone for the latest twist involving Teresa Giudice. What began as a quiet, almost hesitant attempt at reconnecting with estranged family members has now erupted into a storyline so layered, so suspicious, and so emotionally charged that even longtime fans are questioning Teresa's motives. Because suddenly, out of nowhere, she's announcing reconciliations left and right, and instead of people applauding, many are raising eyebrows, whispering that something feels off, something feels staged. And as this wave of family healing spreads across podcasts, tabloids, and social media, insiders are coming forward with a narrative far less wholesome than the one Teresa is trying to paint. But before we dive deeper into the strange timing and even stranger intentions behind Teresa's latest moves, make sure you show your support. If you're someone who loves peeling back the layers of Bravo drama and uncovering what's really going on behind the scenes, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And trust me, what's coming next is something you do not want to miss. Now here's where the story starts spiraling. Teresa Giudice, for years at the center of family chaos with Joe Gorga, Melissa Gorga, and Kathy Wakile, suddenly decided to go completely public with her newfound peace. On her podcast, she casually revealed that she reached out to Kathy, the same cousin she stopped talking to after season 7. She described Kathy as very nice, congratulated her on her daughter's pregnancy, and acted as if there had never been years of accusations, resentment, or painful silence between them. She even shared that Kathy texted her and Joe Gorga when the siblings reconciled earlier this year, saying she was so happy to see them back together. Teresa repeated the story with an almost overly positive tone, emphasizing how cool and sweet the moment was. But according to a Radar insider, the reality behind that conversation looks very different from the polished version Teresa has been selling. The insider didn't deny the text happened, and they didn't deny the two women are polite to each other. But they made one thing extremely clear. Teresa and Kathy are not close. They are cordial, respectful on the surface, but not reunited, not healed, and definitely not the family unit Teresa is implying in her podcast storytelling. In fact, the insider revealed that Kathy is a private person who has no interest in making these quiet, respectful exchanges into a public spectacle. And that's exactly why Teresa broadcasting every small detail is beginning to rub her the wrong way. It would be one thing if Teresa was simply celebrating a meaningful moment with a long-lost family member. But the insider claims she isn't just sharing these stories, she's pushing them, emphasizing them, almost forcing them into the spotlight in a way that feels less natural and more strategic. According to the source, Teresa's constant public chatter about reconciling with this cousin, this sibling, that in-law, it's starting to look suspiciously like a PR move. A calculated effort to reposition herself in the Real Housewives of New Jersey narrative, especially at a time when insiders claim Bravo is quietly reevaluating cast dynamics and deciding which storylines are still relevant. And what really set off alarm bells was when the insider delivered the line that changed everything. Teresa is laying it on thick, and it doesn't come off well. They went even further, suggesting Teresa may be pursuing any and all avenues to shift public perception and possibly regain attention from Bravo production. In other words, her suddenly blossoming passion for forgiveness might not be about healing, but about camera time. Because here's the truth the insider exposed. Teresa was disappointed when Bravo didn't film her reconciliation with Joe and Melissa. She hoped it would be a big storyline, something powerful, emotional, season-defining. Instead, cameras didn't pick it up. No footage, no spotlight, no storyline. So now she's rolling out a new reconciliation, another reunion, another headline, another attempt to get Bravo to say, wait, maybe this is something we should film. But according to those closest to the situation, Kathy Wakile wants nothing to do with this strategy. She's not someone who runs to the press. She's not someone who turns private conversations into public narratives. And the source says she's likely uncomfortable watching Teresa frame these quiet moments as if they're major show-ready milestones. Fans forget sometimes. Kathy didn't chase fame. She didn't angle for camera time. She walked away from the series without trying to claw her way back, which makes Teresa dragging her into the spotlight now feel even more awkward, especially if Teresa is hoping Bravo will swoop in and capitalize on the storyline. But here's where the story sharpens, because people are beginning to wonder whether Teresa's sudden family unity campaign is coming from a place of fear. Fear of losing her grip on the franchise. Fear of finally being outpaced by fresh storylines and new cast dynamics. Fear that the longer she remains involved in off-screen feuds instead of on-screen drama, the more Bravo might shift its focus elsewhere. And insiders say that fear is exactly why Teresa is trying so hard to create a narrative of emotional maturity, healing, and family restoration. She wants the public to see her as grounded, growing, and gracefully rising above the past, because that look keeps her relevant. That look keeps her central. That look keeps her on camera. But here's the problem. Bravo sees everything, and so far there's no indication that the network plans to follow Teresa down this new reconciliation road. Not with Joe and Melissa, not with Kathy, not with anyone. Which means Teresa is pouring emotional gasoline on a storyline that production may not even care about. And that kind of move, that kind of desperation, fans notice it, insiders notice it, family members notice it. And while Teresa is out here pushing this healed family narrative with more enthusiasm than ever before, there's something else happening behind closed doors. Something deeper. Something not yet revealed to fans. Something that could flip this entire situation on its head. What most viewers don't realize is that the tension behind Teresa's sudden public peace tour is far more complicated than a few texts and polite conversations. While Teresa continues broadcasting her family reconnections like they're chapter titles in a redemption novel, those closest to the situation say the emotional temperature inside the extended Giudice Gorga Wakile family is far hotter than what Teresa wants the public to believe. Because quietly, away from podcasts and interviews, not everyone is thrilled about Teresa resurfacing old wounds for the sake of a new image. In fact, insiders claim that more than a few relatives are privately questioning whether Teresa is truly looking for healing, or simply trying to rewrite the narrative at a moment when she needs positive attention the most. This isn't the first time Teresa has tried to control the story, but what makes this particular moment so destabilizing is the timing. Real Housewives of New Jersey is in one of its most chaotic transitional phases ever. The cast is divided, fans are split, and insiders say Bravo is carefully reevaluating where the show needs to go next. Some believe Teresa is safe because she's an original cast member. Others insist no one, not even Teresa, is guaranteed security anymore. And that uncertainty is exactly what insiders believe triggered her sudden shift toward this overly polished healing era. But here's the plot twist. While Teresa is working overtime to present herself as the matured, peaceful, reborn version of herself, there are conversations happening within the family that she doesn't know about. According to a separate source, Kathy Wakile's household has been quietly discussing the real reason Teresa keeps mentioning them publicly. Kathy reportedly feels blindsided. Not angry, not dramatic, but uncomfortable. Uncomfortable that a simple text she sent in kindness has become a storyline. Uncomfortable that Teresa is publicly shaping their current relationship into something warmer and deeper than it actually is. And uncomfortable that her private name is now attached to what many insiders suspect is a narrative designed to protect Teresa's Bravo future. Even Joe and Melissa, according to whispers behind the scenes, aren't entirely convinced that Teresa's sudden burst of unity is as genuine as she claims. Their recent reconciliation, while real enough to ease family tension, did not magically erase years of deep fractures. Yet Teresa continues painting a picture of perfect harmony, something the siblings reportedly find exaggerated at best. And the more Teresa speaks, the more people begin to wonder whether she's trying to fix the past or rewrite it to benefit the present. But the biggest concern brewing underneath the surface is the one nobody wants to say out loud. That Teresa is trying to create a storyline so visible, so dramatic, so emotionally essential that Bravo won't dare reduce her screen time or move the franchise in a direction where she's no longer the core. And because Bravo ignored the first reconciliation she pushed into the spotlight, she's now amplifying another, louder, and more forcefully, hoping this time someone in production finally pays attention. The insider even phrased it bluntly. She's doing everything she can to make her personal relationships look camera-ready. But the truth is, no one knows if production cares. And that is where the pressure really begins to crack through the surface. Sources claim Teresa is growing frustrated. Frustrated that the network hasn't responded, frustrated that her image isn't shifting the way she hoped, and frustrated that her efforts aren't generating the on-screen payoff she imagined. Meanwhile, the quietly uncomfortable Wakiles, the cautious Gorgas, and the skeptical insiders all feel like they're being pulled into a storyline none of them signed up for. Teresa is pushing unity, but behind closed doors, the very people she's trying to highlight are pulling farther away. Still, here's the real twist. The one that might define the next chapter of Real Housewives of New Jersey, whether Bravo wants it or not. Teresa may be trying to create a storyline, but the reaction she's generating is becoming a storyline of its own. People are talking not about the reconciliations themselves, but about Teresa's motives. Is it a PR stunt? A survival tactic? A desperation move? A strategic repositioning? Or is Teresa genuinely trying to mend her fractured past, but simply doesn't know how to do it privately? That unanswered question is becoming the real drama. And the more she tries to control the narrative, the more it starts slipping out of her hands. And here's the quiet truth that no insider has dared to say publicly. If Teresa keeps pushing these reunions into the spotlight without the consent or comfort of the family members involved, she might accidentally create the very fallout she's working so hard to avoid. Because people don't like being used as props. People don't like being pushed into a camera-ready role. And if Kathy, Joe, or Melissa begin to feel like Teresa is treating them less like family and more like storyline accessories, the tension could explode into something much bigger than a few suspicious podcast revelations. So as the dust settles around Teresa's newly public reconciliation tour, one thing becomes clear. This story isn't about healing, it's about control. It's about timing. It's about fear. And most of all, it's about who is truly pulling the strings behind the curtain. Teresa wants the world to believe she is peacefully rebuilding bridges. Insiders say she may actually be setting the stage for the biggest fracture of all. And whether Bravo cameras choose to follow it or not, this drama is already writing itself, loud, messy, and impossible to ignore.